So, as I always say, if this is not a video that you can handle, I like my Fresh Prince Bel-Air shirt. But if this is not a case that you can handle, or if listening to these cases will disrupt any moment of your day, then please, 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 please find another video, okay? We are not supposed to be living a life where we are purposely going towards things that will disrupt our happiness, okay? So I'm serious about that. Doesn't matter about how many views I get. It's about you and your mental health. So again, if this isn't a video that you can handle, please click off now. For those that can stay, thank you. Please subscribe and like and comment, and let's count the people down that is about to go. So you have 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Later, family. Okay, so this is the true disappearance case of Brandon Lawson, who had disappeared after leaving his house on August 9th of 2013, and he lived in San Angelo, Texas. Okay, so Brandon is what I will refer to from this point on. Brandon was born in 1986, and he was raised in the town of Fort Worth, Texas. So, as I stated, he disappeared on August 9th of 2013, and at that time he was 26 years old. So it's gonna jump straight into the disappearance case because there's not much information about Brandon's earlier life. So Brandon had a girlfriend, and they were together for 10 years, and her name is Lawson. So on the day of August 8th, Brandon had arrived to his home where him and his girlfriend Ladessa both shared between 10:45 and 11 p.m. Brandon and his girlfriend Ladessa were arguing because Brandon did not come back home the night before, and so this did not set right with Ladessa, so the two began arguing. Ladessa had said to Brandon that she believed he was on drugs, and so she's fussing back and forth with him, like basically questioning if that was the issue, because during that time Brandon was abusing drugs, and he was clean for 6 months. So because he did not come home, that's an odd behavior of his. So she wanted to know, like, okay, are you back using? So all of that caused an argument between the two. It was later on told by Brandon's brother Kyle that Brandon had taken meth shortly a time before he disappeared. So, but again, that was told after the fact that Brandon disappeared. So during this time, Ladessa had no information was true. So Kyle, his wife, and their 4-year-old child had drove to someone's house to retrieve a gas container. During that time of him going to someone else's house to borrow a gas container, Kyle and Brandon had continued to make calls to each other. But Brandon usually didn't, during those calls, he did not have a long conversation with his brother. Like, he only said a few sentences and then they would hang up. So at 12:50 a.m., so now we're 20 minutes past the time that Brandon had initially called Kyle. So 20 minutes later, Brandon had called 911, which that call had ringed at a local nursing home in Robert Lee, Texas. So that's where Brandon was at the time that he called and picked up in the dispatchers that he was at a local nursing home in Robert Lee, Texas. And he had told the responder that he had ran out of gas and that he needed the police. Now, it was during that call that Brandon had said several confusing statements between him and the responder. So this is where I'm gonna go and read the actual transcript of that call. Give me 1 minute. Okay, so this is the transcript. So 911 said, 911 emergency. Brandon said, yes, I'm in the middle of a field. Escaped, we just pushed some guys over. We're about her going towards Abilene on both sides. My truck ran out of gas. There's one car here. A guy is chasing me through the woods. Please hurry. So the 911 dispatcher said, okay, now run that by me one more. So Brandon says, there'll be no talking to him. I accidentally ran into him. So the 911 dispatcher says, oh, you ran into him. Okay. Someone says something in the background from the 911 dispatcher's end. Brandon starts talking in an inaudible voice, and he says, the first guy, and then they hear a loud noise like a gunshot in the background. So the 911 dispatcher says, do you need an emergency? And then someone, again in the dispatcher's line, says something in the background at the same time. So they also said it sounds like Brandon chuckles and says, yeah. Some people say it is not Brandon's voice saying yeah. So right after that, Brandon says, no, I need the cops. So the 911 dispatcher says, okay, is anybody hurt? Hello, hello, hello. And Brandon does not a sheriff had arrived at Brandon's truck. So that was about 1:10 a.m. Oh, no, I'm sorry. It was 1 a.m. that the sheriff had arrived to Brandon's truck. But Brandon wasn't there. Kyle then got there at 1:10 a.m. At the time, from 1 a.m. to 1:10 a.m., Brandon and Kyle was still on the phone. And Brandon had told Kyle, I can see you, I'm right here. But the deputy, the sheriff, or Kyle could see him. At the time of this disappearance, Brandon had an active arrest warrant against him. And so that made Kyle believe that he was hiding somewhere where only he could see them, but they couldn't see him because the sheriff was there. So if you have an arrest warrant, you're going to be hiding from any law enforcement. So that's what Kyle was thinking during that time. So Kyle, pulled over to talk to the sheriff for a while. And then he drove a short distance up the road and parked the car to wait for Brandon to come to him. Between 30 and 45 minutes, Kyle then left because Brandon didn't show up. Before Kyle left, he had went to Brandon's truck and he had left the gas can in the back of his truck. And then at 5 a.m., Kyle went back to this scene where Brandon's truck was to check. And he was surprised that Brandon did not return. Around 8 a.m., the truck was towed. So, after this, because all calls were going to his voicemail, no one else had heard from him from after the point that he told Kyle that he could see them. No one has heard from him. So the sheriffs had organized a search party and they spent several hours investigating that area near Brandon's truck, but they found no signs of Brandon. So the family then made a page on Facebook to look, help search for Brandon. Still to this day, Brandon remains missing. So, going back to that other page where I read the transcript, you had some people that was deciphering that phone call, saying that, Brandon was in a full panic mode on the phone with the dispatcher and that it was urgent that he needed help. Also, by this transcript, you can tell that there were multiple people that was around Brandon. Now, we can kind of say that, was it true when he initially told Kyle that there were 3 people chasing him? Was that true? Wait, I'm trying to see. Yeah, he said, someone's chasing him through the woods. So did that mean that he was literally running on foot in the woods, like he got out of his car? Because he did tell the dispatcher that he had accidentally ran into him. So it could be that no one was chasing him. He was driving, he ran into a car, and once he got out the car, him and someone else, whoever was in the other car, was arguing. It got to the point that someone shot him, and he was running, through the woods or whatever. It's multiple things that could have happened, or it could be again that those people were chasing him out of town. They were still following behind him in a panic mode. He ran into their car like to get him away. He got out the car, called. He assumed that his car ran out of gas. Like it's just a lot that we can assume